The American dream used to be simple: a peaceful home, a steady job, and a hopeful future for the next generation. But here in 2025, that dream is starting to crumble. What happened to the neighborhoods we once admired, the small towns we used to visit on road trips? Why do they now feel hollow and forgotten? This isn't about war or pandemic or catastrophe. It's about something far more unsettling: a slow collapse from within. Rising debt, failing infrastructure, vanishing communities. And behind it all, everyday Americans still trying to hold on, still trying to believe. In today's journey, we'll travel through 15 states, not just to point out what's broken, but to uncover the deeper story, the quiet unraveling of the places we once called home. You may be surprised to find your own state here. Or worse, you may already feel it, but didn't know how to name it. Whether you're a traveler, a truth seeker, or someone who still believes America can rise again, watch closely. What we're about to explore may not only change how you see these places, but how you see the future. If any part of this story resonates with you, leave a comment, subscribe, and share this with someone who still believes that America is worth saving. Because what we're talking about isn't just data, it's about people. It's about us. Number 1. Illinois, a state on life support. The headlines no longer shock anyone. In 2025, Illinois is hemorrhaging residents' money and trust slowly, steadily, and almost quietly. In the past year alone, more than 110,000 people have left the state. They didn't move for adventure or a better climate. They moved because staying felt like choosing decline. In South Chicago, entire blocks are fading. One elementary school recently closed its doors, pushing over 800 students into overcrowded and underfunded alternatives. Nearly half of the neighborhood's small shops sit vacant, their windows plastered with for lease signs that haven't changed in months. Outside food banks, lines stretch around corners, people waiting not because they're unemployed, but because they're exhausted by a system that no longer works for them. Illinois carries more than $40 billion in public debt. A quarter of its annual budget is devoted not to new programs or future investments, but to paying down past due pension obligations. The system designed to reward long-serving public workers has become a fiscal death trap, one that leaves today's citizens footing yesterday's bill. Essential services are collapsing under the weight. Healthcare facilities are scaling back. Police departments are stretched too thin. Public schools in lower-income areas are operating without full-time nurses or even functioning heating systems. At the same time, property taxes in Cook County have ballooned. For many retirees, the dream of owning a paid-off home has turned into a nightmare of endless tax bills. Imagine finishing a 30-year mortgage only to spend your golden years choosing between food and property tax. Illinois isn't bankrupt. It's worse, it's stuck. Trapped between obligations it can't meet and residents it can no longer serve. And while state officials talk about reform, credit rating agencies are watching. If Illinois fails to fix its fiscal mess by 2027, it could lose its investment-grade rating. That would make borrowing more expensive, deepening the debt spiral. In plain terms, the state could become financially ungovernable. And people are noticing. Not with panic, but with resignation. The decline has become normal. The only ones raising alarms are the ones leaving. Number 2. New Jersey. The high cost of holding on. From a distance, New Jersey still sells the image of the American ideal. Large homes with white fences, tree-lined streets, proximity to New York City and the beach. But beneath that suburban polish is a deep and growing fracture. New Jersey holds the highest public debt of any state, over $200 billion. And the cracks are starting to show. Families who once saw New Jersey as a dream destination are now scrambling to escape. Why? Because the cost of staying has become unbearable. Property taxes are nearly double the national average. Even for homeowners who've paid off their mortgage's taxes alone can exceed $1,000 a month. For retirees on fixed incomes, that's devastating. One elderly woman in Trenton put it simply, "I don't owe the bank. I owe the government." Meanwhile, entire communities are unraveling. Young families are heading south to North Carolina, to Pennsylvania, chasing affordability and basic security. Small businesses are folding under the weight of overlapping taxes on property, income, utilities, even signage. Commercial areas that once buzzed with life are now marked by silence and boarded-up windows. At the same time, real estate developers are buying up landholding properties empty in anticipation of a market rebound. Their wealth insulates them from the decay. Their children don't attend the crumbling public schools. They don't rely on understaffed hospitals or inconsistent public services. They stay in New Jersey on paper, but they live elsewhere in reality. The consequences are systemic. As the tax base shrinks, the state's ability to provide services declines. Public transportation breaks down. School funding is slashed. Infrastructure upgrades are postponed, and yet taxes keep rising not to improve life, but to keep a failing system on life support. New Jersey is now trapped in a loop. Rising costs drive people out, and as more people leave, the costs go up even more for those who remain. Without sweeping structural change, the state is on track to follow the same trajectory as post-industrial cities like Detroit, except this time it's not just one city, it's the entire state. The American dream here hasn't disappeared. It's just become too expensive to touch. And for thousands of New Jersey residents, that means leaving behind not just their homes, but their hopes. Number 3, Connecticut, where prosperity is now a museum piece. Once a national symbol of elite living, pristine towns and intellectual promise, Connecticut in 2025 is sliding into a quiet crisis. From Greenwich to Hartford, the illusion of stability is preserved by well-kept facades, but behind them lies a growing sense of betrayal. The state now holds one of the highest costs of living in the United States, surpassing even New York and California. Yet public services are being gutted. Health benefits, education, funding, and welfare programs are withering, leaving residents stunned by how fast their safety net disappeared. The real gut punch comes to those who built this state. Retired public workers are watching promised pensions vanish overnight. One former shipyard engineer in New London found his retirement income slashed by half with no warning. The reason: budget shortfalls. "You pay taxes like a millionaire," he said bitterly, "but you live like someone forgotten in your own state. And those taxes are suffocating the middle class. While the ultra-wealthy move assets offshore or out of state, average families in Connecticut pay up to 14% of their income in combined taxes. That's among the highest burdens in the nation." At the same time, nearly 25 towns and cities have received a failing grade for financial health. Bridgeport, Waterbury, and New Britain. Once industrial powerhouses now report rising unemployment, crumbling infrastructure and school systems that are barely functioning. It's not just about economics, it's about the erosion of dignity. Families who once believed in the promise of Connecticut now feel punished for staying. Meanwhile, neighboring states like New Hampshire and North Carolina lure away young families and retirees with lower costs, better services, and crucially, a sense of optimism. Connecticut still has beautiful neighborhoods and ivy-covered colleges, but they're starting to feel like relics of another era. Without structural reform, what remains of this state's legacy may soon be found only in history books and in the rearview mirror of moving trucks. Number 4. Kentucky, where the mines went dark and so did everything else. Kentucky once fueled the nation. Its coal-powered cities and kept America's lights on. The people here were proud, hardworking, and resilient. But when the coal industry began to fade, so too did the foundation of an entire way of life. And what followed wasn't transformation, It was abandonment. By 2025, Kentucky ranks among the top 3 states for deaths related to opioid abuse. This isn't just a health crisis, it's an emotional and economic collapse. In counties like Harlan and Pike, where coal once made up 60% of local GDP jobs, didn't just disappear. They were replaced with silence. No retraining, no new industries, just boarded up diners, shuttered gas stations, and young people without direction. Small towns across the state are hollowing out. Supermarkets are gone. Banks are gone. In some places, even post offices have closed. Residents are left driving hours to reach a hospital if they can afford the gas or the insurance. Medication costs are rising while incomes have flatlined. It's not unusual for a minor injury in rural Kentucky to become a lifelong financial wound. In many communities, the only remaining public buildings are the police station and the church. Everything else is for sale or already abandoned. And yet the myth of self-reliance still runs strong here. People rarely ask for help, even when they need it. But the question now is not whether Kentucky is proud, it's whether pride is enough to survive the weight of despair. The deeper tragedy is that this didn't have to happen. When coal declined, there was a chance to invest in new skills, new infrastructure, new futures. But those decisions were postponed, redirected, or ignored entirely. Now the result is visible not just in poverty statistics, but in the empty streets and fading faces of a forgotten population. Houses here are cheap. You can buy a home for under $50,000 in some counties. But the real cost of living isn't in dollars. It's in distance from care, in lack of opportunity, in a sense that no one is coming to fix this. Kentucky is like an oil lamp in a storm, once warm now flickering weakly in the dark. The light's still on, but barely. Number 5. Louisiana losing ground by the hour. In Louisiana, collapse isn't theoretical. It's measurable, tangible. You can literally watch the land disappear. By 2025, over 2,000 square miles of Louisiana have vanished beneath rising sea levels, a football field of land lost every 100 minutes, according to NASA. But it's not just coastline erosion. It's the erasure of entire communities. Indigenous tribes, like those in Isle de Jean Charles, are being wiped off the map, and with them, generations of culture, history, and life. And still the response is silence. The state's disaster response budget is stretched to the breaking point. Infrastructure levees, roads, drainage systems hasn't kept pace with the storms. Many areas never fully recovered from Katrina, let alone the dozen hurricanes and floods since. In neighborhoods outside New Orleans, rebuilding isn't happening. People aren't even waiting for help anymore. They're leaving, some for the first time, others forever. The pain isn't just environmental, it's deeply human. Many families face the impossible choice between staying in homes that may flood again or leaving behind everything they've ever known. In a state where resilience is part of the DNA, that decision cuts deep. New Orleans has lost nearly 30% of its population since the early 2000s. Not because the city isn't beloved, but because survival has become too uncertain. Meanwhile, inland communities face new emergencies of their own: unemployment, violent crime, failing hospitals. The wealth gap grows wider. State officials divert funding to emergency relief, but what's needed is emergency reform. Louisiana isn't just drowning in water, it's drowning in abandonment. No one is questioning the heart of its people. The question is, how long can hearts survive without help? Number 6. Pennsylvania, a high-tech future in a broken present. Once the birthplace of American industry, Pennsylvania is now a symbol of the Rust Belt's long and painful unraveling. The steel mills are gone. The jobs are gone. And in 2025, what's left is a haunting paradox: a state betting billions on digital futures while the physical present crumbles around its feet. In Philadelphia, entire neighborhoods are being swallowed by homelessness and drug abuse. Kensington, once working class and proud, now looks like a war zone. Tents line the sidewalks. Used syringes litter the curbs. People shuffle by with blank stares, caught in a cycle of addiction and abandonment. And just a few miles away, the state government is investing over $35 million in a public AI initiative, smart cameras, chatbots, automation systems. It sounds forward-thinking, but it's not meeting people where they are. You can't digitize hope. You can't code clean streets or affordable housing. Pennsylvania's public transportation systems are outdated. Internet access in rural areas is unreliable. Thousands of residents in places like Erie and Johnstown still rely on decaying 20th century infrastructure. But instead of rebuilding what's broken, funding is funneled into smart tech that most citizens don't even have the tools to use. The irony is brutal. While tech consultants pitch virtual solutions, real people are sleeping under real bridges. Taxpayers are footing the bill for AI prototypes while waiting 6 months to see a doctor or fix a broken sidewalk. This isn't just mismanagement, it's misalignment. The goals of the government no longer match the reality of the people. And the result? Frustration, apathy, quiet rage. Pennsylvania used to be a working-class stronghold. Now many of those workers are gone. The children of steelworkers and machinists have left for other states or been pulled into poverty they never saw coming. What's left is nostalgia and a government more interested in controlling the narrative than confronting the truth. In the shadow of the Liberty Bell, the American dream isn't just fading. It's being reprogrammed into something unrecognizable. Number 7. California. The giant on shaky ground. California, once the golden crown of American prosperity, now carries a darker title home to nearly 1/3 of the country's homeless population. That's more than 180,000 people without stable shelter in 2025. Many of them not addicts or unemployed, but former nurses, teachers, and even tech engineers. In the world's 5th largest economy, thousands live in tents, vans, and storage containers. The irony is staggering. California generates over 15% of America's GDP, yet can't house its own workforce. In San Jose, a software developer, laid off from a major tech company, now lives in a van near a strip mall. He showers in public restrooms, applies for part-time gigs, and sleeps in the very city he helped build. I didn't do anything wrong, he says. I just can't afford to stay. Housing is the main culprit. In major cities, the average home price exceeds $800,000, while wages stagnate and living costs climb. Even people with stable jobs often spend more than half their income on rent. A single missed paycheck or medical bill is enough to send someone spiraling. And it's not just individuals falling. Cities are buckling. Public schools are overcrowded and underfunded. Emergency rooms operate beyond capacity. Tent cities grow along the same freeways once lined with palm trees and promise. Meanwhile, the state remains paralyzed by legal gridlock and development wars. Every proposed housing project sparks fierce debate between residents protecting neighborhood character and activists demanding affordable options. As they argue, the crisis deepens. More people fall through the cracks. More kids grow up in shelters. More elderly sleep in parked cars. California's collapse isn't loud. It's slow and silent, like erosion. You get used to the sight of tents under bridges, to stepping over human pain on the sidewalk. The tragedy is not that people are shocked. It's that they've stopped being shocked altogether. For a state known globally for innovation, entertainment, and progress, the most pressing innovation it now needs is moral courage to admit the system is broken and fix it before the streets become the only homes left. Number 8. Arizona paradise built on sand. Arizona marketed itself as the affordable alternative. Retirees came for the warmth young families for the prices and digital nomads for the views. But in 2025, the cost of living here is no longer just measured in dollars, it's measured in water stability and peace of mind. A full 30% of Arizona's retired population now lives without consistent access to running water or electricity. In rural areas outside Phoenix and Tucson, entire neighborhoods sit half-constructed victims of broken promises and evaporating aquifers. Groundwater reserves are depleting faster than they can be replenished. The Colorado River lifeline of the Southwest is running dry. And yet, development continues. Real estate projects are approved. New homes are marketed to out-of-state buyers. But no one talks about the water crisis in the fine print. While wealthy newcomers install turf lawns and air-conditioned wine cellars, legacy residents are asked to cut back on showers, abandon gardens, and share resources they can barely access themselves. This isn't just environmental mismanagement, it's an ethics crisis. Arizona knew the desert had limits, but ambition refused to listen. The result? A collision between dreams and drought. The heat is rising. Summer temperatures now regularly hit 115 degrees, stressing power grids, public health, and human patience. And in lower-income communities, it's not rare to find families choosing between paying their cooling bill or buying groceries. Arizona was supposed to be the promised land for those priced out of California and Nevada. But it's now clear affordability without sustainability is just a mirage. A dream built on sand, beautiful until the wind comes. If Arizona doesn't radically shift priorities, focusing on water infrastructure and community over profit, it may become the first modern state to see its expansion literally outpace its ability to survive. Number 9. Maryland, a tale of two cities on every block. Maryland has long marketed itself as a balanced state, progressive, wealthy, and educated. But behind the statistics lies a disturbing truth. It ranks among the top 3 states for income inequality in the country. And nowhere is that divide more brutal than in Baltimore. Drive just a few minutes from downtown, and the transformation is jarring. Crumbling row houses with boarded-up windows line one street. One block over million-dollar mansions with wrought-iron gates and full-time surveillance teams gleam in the sun. This isn't just a city with rich and poor neighborhoods. It's a city split in half by economics, by race, by opportunity. The state itself is rich. Counties like Montgomery and Howard boast some of the highest household incomes and college graduation rates in the nation. But these numbers mean little to the communities left behind. In Baltimore's West Side, schools struggle to fill teaching positions, classrooms overflow, air conditioning fails during heat waves, and students, many of them low income, walk past vacant lots and abandoned liquor stores to get to school. Public hospitals are underfunded. Public transportation breaks down, and while lawmakers push for smart city upgrades, entire zip codes still don't have reliable internet. For those on the bottom, hope is not just scarce, it's actively being stripped away. The most painful part, Maryland has the resources. It has the tech, the money, the policy minds. But what it lacks is distribution, the political will to treat underserved communities not as liabilities, but as equals. For a state so close to the nation's capital, the disparity feels almost theatrical. Maryland isn't collapsing through natural disasters or economic ruin. It's collapsing through neglect of the people who can't afford to leave. And if inequality continues to deepen, the divide won't just be economic, it'll be social, generational, and irreversible. The last one, Alaska. The edge of the map and the edge of attention. Alaska still carries the mystique of frontier life, vast wilderness, rugged independence, and untamed beauty. But in 2025, that image feels increasingly like a postcard from a time that no longer exists. Beneath the snow and silence, Alaska is quietly suffering one of the worst humanitarian and infrastructure crises in America. The state has the highest per capita homelessness rate in the nation. Remote communities lack clean water, reliable electricity, and access to healthcare. Indigenous populations who have lived on this land for centuries struggle to get basic services, even as the state continues to export oil and collect billions in resource revenue. Every year, Alaskans receive a small check from the state's permanent fund dividend. But that money doesn't fix frozen pipes, collapsed roads, or the brutal cost of flying to the nearest hospital. In the winter, temperatures plummet to 40 degrees, and if your generator fails or your oil shipment doesn't make it, survival becomes a daily gamble. Many of Alaska's villages are invisible to the rest of the country. They don't appear on tourist maps or national headlines, but they exist barely. And the people there have one message: we don't expect to be prioritized, we just want to be remembered. In Anchorage and Fairbanks, homelessness is rising fast. Shelters are overwhelmed, addiction rates climb, and the cost of building new infrastructure in such a vast, harsh climate has left the government paralyzed. Alaska's isolation has become its greatest curse, not just geographically, but politically. There's no dramatic collapse here, no storm, no fire, just the long-term consequences of being too far away from the center of power and too easy to ignore. From the deep inequality of Maryland to the silent erasure of Alaska, the American dream isn't dying everywhere at once. It's dying in fragments, in forgotten zip codes, distant communities, and unspoken corners of our map. The question is no longer whether collapse is happening, it's whether we're willing to see it, and what we'll do once we do.